Good afternoon and welcome to Season 3, Episode 4 of the HOP webinar series, which is a series of live careers webinars that give you the opportunity to hear directly from professional experts within a particular industry. And this week we are looking at the landscaping and horticulture industry, which is very, very important to us in Hertfordshire, and there will be growing demand for as well. So firstly, for those of you that are watching this session live, well done for coming home from school after a long day at the end of a long week and deciding that coming onto a careers webinar is the best use of your time. And we really, really thank you for coming on this, and we really hope that you're going to gain something out of this session. So just a bit of housekeeping before I start. We can't see or hear any of you that are in the audience, so hopefully you can see and hear myself and our panelists, Matt and Steve, who I'll ask to introduce themselves in a moment. We can't hear you either, but we do want to give you the opportunity to interact with us. And the way that you can interact with us directly is via the questions tab on your dashboard. So on your dashboard, you see that there's a questions tab there. If you open that out, it opens up a text box. Then you can type in your question. It's only visible to me, and then I can pass that question on to Matt or to Steve. So anything that you really, really want to know that we don't cover, please do put that question in there, because it's a really good opportunity for you to find out what your next steps might be if you don't think that we cover those. This session is being recorded, so by you guys attending this live at the moment, it gives you the opportunity to interact and ask those questions, but it is being recorded. It will be available on our HOP website. So HOP stands for the Hertfordshire Opportunities Portal, and it is the one-stop shop for any young people, any students, any teachers who live in Hertfordshire who want to find out careers information that will be relevant for the county. So within this session today, we're going to talk a little bit about what the landscaping horticulture industry actually is, and the types of jobs that there are within it. We'll have a look at the skills, qualities and the qualifications that someone might need to go into the industry, and we're going to find a little bit about the most enjoyable aspects of the role. So without any further ado, what I'd like to do is hand over to our panelists to tell you a little bit more about themselves. So starting with Matt O'Connor. Good afternoon, Matt.
Good afternoon, and thank you for allowing us to talk about our wonderful industry, because it really is. So as you've said there, I'm Matt O'Connor. I work for a family business that's been based in Hertfordshire for 50 years, which is John O'Connor Grounds Maintenance, set up by my father. And we maintain a lot of commercial sites, so hotels, retail parks, lots of local authority sports pitches in and around Hertfordshire, schools, education, that type of places. So locally, lots of sports pitches in North Hertfordshire, St Albans, Hertsmere. We're also University of Hertfordshire as well. That's me. Okay. And I'm managing director of the business.
Thank you, Matt. And now, Stephen, as you'll pick up from the slight tweak in his accent, he's not from Hertfordshire, he's from a little bit further afield than that, but he is something of, I'm going to make him blush here, he's something of an industry expert. So good afternoon, Stephen. Thanks so much for giving us your time this afternoon. Tell everyone a little bit more about you.
Super, thanks Gareth, and apologies for the noise in the background. I'm just wrapping up an event here at the NAC with the landscape show, so I've just kind of dropped on to join you guys. So thank you for, like Matt said, for joining us. Yep, my name's Steve Ensel. I'm the education officer with the British Association of Landscape Industries. I've always been connected with horticultural landscaping all my working life in one form or another. It's something that I kind of fell into. So I guess a little bit like yourselves, I was making a decision on what I wanted to do. I studied graphic design but couldn't get any work, and then ended up working on a nursery for what I thought was going to be a summer job, and I ended up stopping there for 5 years. Then I set up and ran my own landscape construction business before moving into a garden manager at an independent garden centre. I've also taught horticulture and landscaping in prisons and at FE colleges before my final role here, bringing all of my kind of hopefully experience that I've had to this new role here at Barley to promote and hopefully signpost you guys to thinking about a career in the landscape and horticulture industry.
Okay, thanks very much, Matt, and thanks very much, Steve. So as you hear there, you've got a whole host of experience here on this call. People who were once upon a time in your position, they were at school, they may be thinking, what are my next steps? What career do I want to go into? Want to know a little bit more about landscaping and horticulture. So this is your opportunity to find out more directly from this. I really do encourage you, if there's anything that you want to find out, do go to that questions tab, type in your question, say it's only visible to me, and then we will direct that question out for you. So first of all, well, Matt, I want to ask you to talk through this screen here. Just talk about some of the perceptions and do a bit of myth busting for us. So over to you.
Yeah, well, if you love the outside, this might be the right place to start with. But unfortunately, we do suffer from some myths. And also, you're very enlightened here because you're talking about landscaping and horticulture, and that's the first thing, that quite often that doesn't happen. When we've done industry research, we've found that only maybe 7 in 100 schools are suggesting this could be a really good career route for their pupils. And we think the reason for that is this kind of poor perception of the industry, where maybe 70% of 18-year-olds firmly believe that horticulture careers should only be considered for people that have failed academically. And it's still even later than that, 50% of under 25s think horticulture isn't unskilled. Now that may have been a view held a long time ago, but that's not the case now. There is a place for everybody, but it's, in terms of qualifications and training through the industry, there's some super apprenticeships now in horticulture. We've got level 2, which is kind of an entry level, apprenticeship level. Level 3, and that's more of your supervisor type grade. And we're just about to get appointed level 5, which is it's equivalent to a degree. So we've got degree level apprenticeships in horticulture. And it's because it's a very skilled industry. If you think you're quite artistic, there's a place for you here. And if you're quite scientific, there's a place for you here. If you're into construction, you know, I know you've done some webinars on bricklaying and the construction industry. Well, we often, landscapers, create the built environment outside. So if you think about the parks or gardens or the show gardens, that's come together. So great that we're on today, because you are the enlightened ones for even talking about it. But it's a wonderful place for people that like working outside and like working with plants. If I'm not working outside, I'm usually playing outside on a mountain bike. Hence, I've got a bit of a graze on my face. But I think it's because you will find people in this industry generally love outside and everything that can benefit from that. Okay, Stephen, I think you was the one that created this slide in the first place. So.
No, absolutely. And I think it's the broad range of skills that are actually used by horticulture and landscaping staff. So, you know, like Matt said, it's a creative one, it's a problem-solving one, it's thinking outside the box. There's elements of science. There's also, I'm afraid you're not going to escape it, there are going to be elements of maths and the analytical side of things, you know. So, you know, looking at those core subjects that you're looking at now, they're going to take you everywhere you go, and every industry is going to need them. There's not this assumption that I failed all my GCSEs, therefore the only options are here, there, or, you know, somewhere else kind of thing. And, you know, what we're saying is, you know, do your best to get those, because those are skills that you're going to need, and particularly in our industry, whether it's calculating, you know, ratios for mixing, you know, cement, whether it's working out ratios on a design to be able to understand the scale, whether it's, you know, calculating square meterage, area, tonnage and materials that come in. There are so many skills that are needed, you know, from that point of view. So it is a highly skilled one. We're not expecting you to know it all, but the training that you should receive will kind of really ramp up your skills ready for working in the industry.
Sure. Now, I asked for questions, and our audience have been incredibly responsive already. We've already had the first question in, which might be the quickest I've ever had a question in on the webinar so far. And I'm going to jump straight to it, because I think it's an important one to ask. So, how do I start? Is the question. So, I mean, maybe the person who sent that question, if you just send another one in, just telling me which year group you're in, we can make sure we really tailor this answer to you. But if someone's thinking about, GCSE subjects that they might choose, or what they might do at the end of year 11, Steve, what would you recommend that they do? I mean, are there particular subjects or colleges that they should be going to?
Oh no, absolutely. I mean, when you're thinking about that, I mean, at the end of the day, you're trying to plan for the future. Nobody knows 100% exactly what they want to do. I would suggest, we're all kind of been at that situation where we're trying to pick a range of subjects that are going to give us the best options when we come out. And what's great about the landscape and horticulture industry is I pretty much we could look at all of our subjects and say there is an application to our industry. Matt will know this kind of with the work that's done day in, day out. It could be that you're picking things like geography. It could be things that you're picking history. It could be the more creative subjects. They've all got an aspect or an application, if you like, to our industry. There are historic gardens at the end of the day that need to be kind of looked at in a different way. There is loads of, and for me, the exciting thing about landscaping is that it's creative. You're building, creating something and making a difference somewhere from that point of view. So there are lots of subjects. Your sciences are going to be useful as well as your core subjects. So it's not that we're going to say you've got to do these 2 or 3 subjects to come and join the landscape industry. That's not necessarily what we're looking for. We're looking for, the other things that come with it, the aptitude and, the attitude that comes in. But when we're seeing those kind of subjects, we know that there's going to be elements of science, geography, and all those kind of exciting subjects that are there, as well as the creative ones. Even the musical ones shows that you're a creative person at the end of the day, and so you're able to bring those sort of aspects to it. And Matt, anything else?
I can imagine when there's some students sometimes have been doing Pythagoras, the triangles, and think, when would I ever use this? Well, if you was marking out a football pitch, you need to create a right angle. And how do you do that? It's by creating a 3-4-5 triangle, and you will know you've got an absolute perfect right angle, and you can create a football pitch or a running track. So it seems right. It's and where do you start? I think the thing to start is to start looking. If you're thinking of going into an apprenticeship or a college course, really do your research. Look into that as far as possible. Start looking into going onto company websites and seeing what they have to offer, and start to think, what part of this industry might I be interested in? Because it is vast. The part that we mainly specialize in is maintenance, but that's kind of coming from that. We work with trees quite a lot. We also do pest control, sports pitch maintenance, so pruning of shrubs, all types of things like that. And then work opportunities, as in trial, when you come to your work experience, that might be a first chance to actually go and speak to a business and say, I'd like to come and try and see what it's like. And that can be the first stage often.
Sure. Okay. So the original question, it responded by saying it's in year 9, so yet to choose GCSE. So I think what we're saying here is that there are no GCSEs that subjects that you really must be taking, but there's going to be some value, I guess, in all of them. And Matt, you've given a really, really good practical example there of why maths might be useful. We had another question in as well, which I think is a fantastic question. So thank you for submitting it. Would you be able to have a career in this industry even if you only get passing grades in science and maths?
Oh gosh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, landscapers and companies like Matt runs, they will look at CVs and look to see what your grades are. But if you've done well, in them, and if you exceeded, great. If you've don't ever look. A pass is a pass at the end of the day. So don't ever let anybody take that away from you. And you know what? Even if I didn't pass my maths the first time round, I had to retake it the following autumn to make sure I got it, kind of thing. So don't feel that you've got to get all the academic kind of qualifications. What we're looking to see is a decent, well-rounded individual that comes with it, because a lot of the training that we're looking for will be done once you've left school, whether that be an apprenticeship, whether that you go off to a local college and study a particular qualification. And like Matt said, you've got other opportunities as well to grab some work experience. I work for the British Association of Landscape Industries. I would love to hear you getting in touch with us and saying, I want to do some work experience. Can you find me somebody to do it? Do you know what? I would grab that with both hands, find a local member in the area. We'd reach out to them and say, yeah, look, we've got this young person that wants to come and try, a week or two's experience. absolutely come and see what it's like. You know, we're screaming out for people to come and join it. Anything we can kind of showcase it, please do. And then you can get a feel for it. And then when you get ready to leave school and you've kind of really narrowed down to what you're looking for, then you can look at the next stage of what you're going to do in terms of qualifications and training.
Sure, thank you. So really great questions we've had in already. So as you see, if you submit a question, we will ask it and we will definitely get a really good answer for you as well. So keep them coming in. Just want to touch on now, just for a bit of context, what we actually mean by the industry. So I guess the first thing that comes to my mind when I'm thinking landscaping, I'm thinking of a beautifully manicured garden that someone's got, maybe a public house or a public building with fantastic landscaping up there. I'm also thinking about Wembley Stadium or fantastic playing surfaces. But Stephen, just tell us about the range of different roles that there are within the industry. Are the ones I've mentioned the obvious ones, or are there lots of other ones that we should be thinking about as well?
Absolutely, and it's really hard in some ways to kind of pigeonhole the industry because it is so broad and exciting. And the way we've started to look at it is to say, do you know what? Anywhere there is a green space, landscapers are going to be involved. And like you said, that could be somebody's private back garden, that could be a stadium, that could be, you know, a rooftop garden, it could be a green wall, it could be, you know, the huge parks and things that that Matt's company maintains. And I think it's then understanding that when you kind of drill down into what that is, so when you look at a green space, what happens is it could be going in to improve it. It could be to completely rip it out and start again almost. And it is going to be once it's kind of built and made and planted up and looking great, it's not going to stand still. And, you know, Matt's company will be coming in then to keep it looking good, to keep it looking, you know, safe, to keep making sure it's very welcoming. Because remember that, you know, the second reason that people come and visit the UK is tourism. It's to come and visit our gardens. After wanting to pop down to London and visit and see where the Queen is, they all then want to go and have a look at the incredible gardens that we've got round there. And that can be a broad range of different places that people can visit, and even down to those, we said, the people's own private back garden. So it's anywhere there's a green space, landscapers are going to be involved in some form or another.
Yeah.
And alongside of that as well, so kind of what we're talking there are gardeners leading maybe to head gardeners, head turf people, you know, in turf, groundsmen leading to kind of head grounds person opportunities. But we've also got plant breeders. That these will be people that are responsible for growing the plants. There's a whole industry there that's linked to landscaping. There's a scientific side to that. If you're interested in actually plant breeding and creating new cultivar, that again, something that Stephen, I think, used to do. You've been working in nurseries in the past. So it's maintenance, it's construction, you know, probably everything that you think, and then so much more as well, really. You know.
Yeah, and also interior landscaping. If you turn around and said, you know what, I don't want to work outside, then you could do interior landscaping. There's opportunities there. And like Matt said, it's all the other industries that then support and feed into the landscape industry. The people that supply the materials, the people that supply the tools, the machinery, the people that, you know, do all the training that sits behind it, you know, and the people that do the specialist IT, marketing, accountants. So, you know, if you are an accountant, you could go and work for a big landscape company to help them, you know, keep their books in line, you know, to make sure they're paying what they need to pay in terms of tax every year. So it's supported by a huge amount of different people, as well as that core people that are, you know, boots on the ground making it happen.
Okay. And we know the national plans about building, creating more homes. That's all creating gardens. The infrastructure we have for when we're creating office blocks or new retail outlets, it all comes with horticulture. It's the green economy. We will play our part in climate change in terms of planting trees, green roofs, and the benefits that can have to society. So we're certainly in vogue at the moment. We are part of the solutions, and we just create some wonderful places to be. You know, if you take a walk around the park, you usually come away smiling. It's a place to go and play, to meet people, to have sport. So we're about everything, really.
And just on the back of that, sorry, we're not going to let Gareth get a word in edgeways now. We've started, are we? Here's a tip about or how it works. So you guys are going to be sitting down to do your exams, okay? If you can look out of a window at a green space, there have been studies done in America and out in Europe that will show that you will do better in your exams just looking at a green space, let alone being in there. They've also now linked it to say that hospitals been brought in. It's been brought in, I believe, in Ireland, where every new hospital that's built, the windows have to look out over a green space because it improves people's recovery time. That's the impact green spaces have, and that's people that are looking at it through a window, let alone being out there physically making it happen, you know, from that point of view.
Gareth, I know we've got a slide on this later on, but going back to your first question of where do I start, there's a website called Go Landscape, and it has got a wealth of careers information on there for whether you're a student, pupil, teacher, careers advisor. We've got lots of career stories on there. I'm sure we'll come onto it, but we'll keep plugging Go Landscape website because that's a real. It's got lots of resources on there.
Yeah, you're right. We definitely will. I've got that slide coming out. There's even a QR code on there as well, so it's very easy to access the page from it. Now, as you can tell by Matt's appearance and where he is at the moment, he's in the office more than he is literally out in the fields. But Matt, could you just take us through the day or the week in a life of perhaps of one of your apprentices who are quite young, recently joined the organisation? What would they be doing from Monday to Sunday? Tell us what their week would look like.
Well, yeah, but so the first thing is that they would need really good communication skills. They could be working in a small team. We've got lots of teams that might work as a team of 2, but sometimes that could be much larger. They traditionally start the day quite early. Most of our teams start around about 7:30, some earlier, some later. That might mean reporting to a central depot, or it could mean reporting directly to a site. So if they're a maintenance person in a park, sometimes we have permanent people sited in parks, and they will start there. So you'll be given some instruction on what to do, and more now we're bringing technology into what we do, so we can showcase and respond to our customers. So we'll have route sheets if you're on a multi-drop site, so you could be on a mowing round. You've got a number of sites to do each day and throughout the day, and you'll be ticking them off on a mobile app to say, I've visited this site, it's now done. There's a before and after photo. So again, it can be working out in all weathers, so we will provide equipment and clothing, particularly personal protective clothing. And for a young person, to start with, you might be buddied up with someone that's more experienced, who will start to show you the ropes. And if you're doing an apprenticeship, that means 20% of your time will be spent outside of the business. And sometimes that's done as block release, and sometimes that's done on day release, so one day a week. But yeah, and sometimes some of our operatives, they work on quite a large geographic base, driving in a small vehicle, so you get to see lots of different sites, lots of different places, and you will learn about different towns and cities. You're not just in one location, and that can be something that's you're never bored, because it's always changing.
Yeah, for sure. I think just for context, for those of you that are watching live at the moment, in that questions tab, if you could just tell me the school that you go to or the town that you live in, then we might be able to provide some very real examples of some of the work that you might be seeing on a daily basis. Steve, what sorts of roles would the majority of young people going into their first job actually be doing? I mean, I'm guessing not many 16-year-olds are going to be looking after the pitch at Wembley Stadium straight away, are they? What sorts of roles might someone go into though?
No, they may not be, but they could well be supporting making that happen. It's not to say they wouldn't be allowed on the site. It's like everything. It's you getting a good grounding and understanding what it is. It's learning your skills for your job. And I think you know, we tend to describe it as what we call the operative level, don't we? So you come on board as an operative, you're going through your training at the time, you're gaining your experience from the work that you're doing. You're working probably part of a team more than likely until you become a little bit more, you know, experienced. But it doesn't stop there. And I think that's the other thing as well, is a lot of people think of it as, oh, it's purely just manual. I'm on the end of you know, maybe a strimmer or a mower, and that's all I'm going to do. And if that's what you want to do, that's great. But what I think a lot of people don't necessarily recognize is the opportunity there is to progress. So I'm sure Matt in his company is going to be looking for amongst his teams to go, okay, who's kind of standing out a little bit here? Who can I think to potentially move up to the position of a supervisor to run a team and to run a project at the end of the day? You know, companies like Matt will also probably be putting a progression plan in place ready for that individual to kind of come through. So, you know, companies are going, okay, you join us. This is how it's going to work. You're part of a small team. We're looking to make sure that you progress, that we're keeping you engaged, that, you know, we're rewarding you accordingly. You know, that doesn't necessarily always mean money. It might be more training, it might be more holiday or other bonuses here, there, and everywhere. And then, do you know what? Can we progress you into the role of a supervisor to look after a team, to look after more than a team? Can we then move you maybe into a manager's position where you're managing contracts and things like that? And obviously, along with that progression becomes the opportunity to earn a little bit more money, to move around within a company, you know, from that point of view. So yeah, there's lots of opportunities to progress. You start at the ground level like everybody does, whilst you're gaining your experience, your qualifications, and then you can progress as you want to. And, you know, and companies will encourage that.
Okay, thank you. There's a question that's just come in, which is really relevant to ask: is this a well-paid job?
Go on, Matt. I'll give you some averages afterwards, but I'll let Matt start.
Yeah, no, there's a entry level is probably on the lower scale, but as Stephen says there is room for progression, and you can move through, and really there is no ceiling. You can keep going to achieve the top, as what you've said there. You know, you might be running a contract. You know, contracts in this area can be anything from, you might be responsible for £100,000 budget, you might be responsible for a £2 million budget, and with that kind of responsibility comes financial reward. So that it's, I guess there's a place for everybody, and there is progression all the way through.
Okay, thank you. Right, just want to touch on now, or go into a bit more detail about the sorts of qualifications or courses that people should be doing. Now, what would you recommend to someone in Hertfordshire, Matt, if this is really the career that they want to go in, I guess particularly at the end of year 11, should they be going to college, or can they stay on at school and do A-levels? Are there any particular subject choices you'd really recommend?
Well, again, you can do both. Apprenticeships, you need to be a minimum of 16 and at least have those functional skills. So you will need English and maths, maybe to GCSE level 2 as an absolute minimum, or a functional skill of 1, I think it would be there. And if you haven't got that, often an apprenticeship, we can build functional skills training into that. But perhaps if you're looking at a higher level, so starting at a level 3, that's more of your supervisor grade, or you can think about it in the past of the HND, a higher national diploma. It's kind of pitched about that same level. So again, it depends which area that you want, but coming on, being able to, if you've got A levels, you're going to be thinking, actually, I'm more of a level 3 student than a level 2 student. So I think that would be there. But again, there is places for everybody here. Often with machinery, age can be a bit of a barrier. There's some quite dangerous machinery, large tractors, mowers, even the strimmers. So you might not, if you're starting at 16, you might be working more with hand tools, and until that changes has happened and you've got a bit older and a bit more experience. But there's lots of safety training. You said what happens at the start of a day. Often there might be a toolbox talk or a safety briefing, just ensuring, you know, what's happening this season, what are the things to be looking out with, what machinery would I be using. And you wouldn't be using any machinery until you've been fully trained and are competent to use that piece of machinery. And that will go right through, no matter who you're working for or what part of the sector you're working in.
And just be aware as well, what's great is it's finding something that works for you. So when you're coming towards the end of your GCSEs, you've got your results. Start to look at your options. What are my options for A levels? What ones am I going to do? If I want to go off to college, am I thinking about doing what we call a full-time course? And a full-time course at college is not really a full-time course. It's 3 days, and you'll find a work placement that supports that. So you could go off and do a horticulture or a landscape course. Usually, if you've done very well at your GCSEs, you can go straight in to do a level 3. If you're still working at your GCSEs or you haven't done as well as you were hoping, we can look at level 2 courses. And like Matt says, or we look at apprenticeships. The apprenticeships are almost like the polar opposite in that you work 4 days and then it's 1 day's training, whereas your full-time courses tend to be 3 days training and maybe 1 day's work experience, so to speak. So we've got things like the T levels and things that are going to be coming up on the horizon and things like that you can choose. And I think it's just going to your local training providers, going to your local companies and exploring those options and gathering all the information together that you can to see what works for you and what companies are looking for. So some companies might say, do you know what? Go and do your full-time course, because I can come and have you for a day a week. We can, happy to pay you. We can see how it works. You can complete the course and then come and work for us. Other companies are very, a little bit more. Do you know what? Let's get an apprenticeship going where they you can start and you come and work for us and you can do 20% off the job training, but don't necessarily think of that as just going out into college and doing that off the job training, if you like, or that training that happens. There are a lot of training providers now that come out to you where you're working with the company that you've got a role with, if you like. So it's finding out what's going to work for you. And what's great, remember, 16 to 18, most of your education is going to be free, and that's quite appealing. But having said that, even the apprenticeship does not cost the employer that much money. They have to account for your time at college or off the job, but they're often heavily subsidised in the amount of money, so they're still quite appealing from that point of view. So there are lots of options depending on what you do to look at level 2, level 3 qualifications.
Sure. Okay. Thank you. I've had a really, really good question in. I'm just going to hold that one back just to get through the other couple of questions on here, but I'm going to come back to that one. So just want to know as well, Matt, you've spoken about the importance of being a good communicator, about working as part of a team, but what sorts of skills are you looking for? So regardless of the qualifications of somebody, how's someone going to really stand out to you as someone that you'd want to employ?
It's being a good listener. That's important. This can be dangerous, and you might not necessarily think that to start with. But you could be working at height, or you could be working not necessarily below ground, but digging. If we're digging and planting, we've got cables we need to do checks for. So safety of the operatives is very important. So being a good listener and understanding, and if you don't understand, shouting about it and asking questions. There is never a silly question. We would always rather you ask questions and go away and thinking, what did my supervisor really mean there? Somebody that can turn up every day. It's timekeeping is really important, but it's that enthusiasm is what we're really looking for. If you can come enthusiastically, we can nurture you and create and provide you with a career path and showing an interest. It's been. There's so many skills, and that in sometimes it can be quite nice, because if you start in a small team and you learn about self-management and managing yourself and your own tools, then you might be working in a slightly bigger team, and you might be the person to be given instruction out, and all of a sudden you're realizing that now you're disseminating some of the skills that you're picking up, and you're also sharing that. So you'll be learning about plant knowledge, what plants go well. You can't, there's different environmental conditions, different things succeed. So we're always considering that. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Attitude is key, really key here, though. I think it's.
Yep.
Yeah. For sure. And then the question we got at the bottom there is, what experiences can someone gain without having that formal work experience? And we'd encourage people to be proactive. Work experience isn't always available. I mean, someone could just be curious at home, couldn't they, with flower pots in the garden, or cutting the lawn, or even at school. I mean, I'd discourage anyone from just giving themselves a self-guided tour of the grounds maintenance shed without supervision. But presumably there's lots of different ways of getting some really good, literally hands-on experience of the industry, Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. And all the soft skills, and you'll hear this a lot as you kind of come through the later years in school, it's often referred to, your teachers will say you're building up your soft skills. They talk about the soft skills, because the battle is when you're putting together a CV to come out into the workplace, what's missing off there is experience at the end of the day, because you spent your entire time at school. It's only what you might have as a part-time job, or what you might have as a bit of work experience that has there. But like Matt says, it's all those wealth of other skills that come along that are easily transferable into it. And then it's you kind of showcasing what you've done. I'm sure landscape companies would love to see, when they come along, okay, here's my CV. I'm really sorry, I've got no experience, but can I just show you what I've been doing in my parents' garden? Can I have a little look at this? Here's some pictures of what I did. See, I redid this border here, or I helped my dad with the new patio, or all of those sorts of things shows that you've had a go, you're interested in it, and you know what? You've had a go at it in your own time. That's the difference. That will go, a landscape will go, hello, this person's really interested in doing it. They've done this at the weekends, evenings, and in their holidays, and they're showing an interest in it from that point of view, and that will go a long way.
Sure. Thank you. Just before we move on to the next section, this was a slide that between the two of you put up, and just to summarise the apprenticeship routes into the industry. So I don't know which one of you just want to talk us through this screen.
I'm just looking at. Well, I think the screen there really shows that there's a nice career progression pathway, which is important. So you might be thinking, well, actually, I'm not sure that I'm a degree level student straight away, but I really want to get that hands-on experience. You can start at level 2 and go all the way through, or you can come in at different levels as well. So you can come in at level 3. And then you can go on to this management, which is just about to be approved, and it's equivalent to degree level. But there are also other apprenticeships that would come into, so the sports, specifically kind of sports turf. So you know, golf is a very important sector here. The fine turf, so bowling greens, football pitches. They all need maintenance. So, but yeah, there is a good pathway, and the industry is investing. But the industry has come together to create these apprenticeships, so it's fit for purpose, really. And
you've got a choice, haven't you, Matt?
Yeah.
You've got a choice. You can choose. You can do a level 2 or a level 3, and you can choose to follow the landscape route. So, like you're building, constructing, of green spaces, or the horticulture, which has got a little bit more, the softer elements in terms of maintenance, and also, propagation of plants and things like that. So there's different pathways within each one of those that you can start to specialise in. But you'll get a broad feel for the full industry, and then you can specialise in 3 or 4 units in one of those.
Yep. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. So the question that's come in, it's a really, really good question, actually. Is this career fairly supportive to high-functioning mental disorders, e.g. anxiety or autism? Steve, can I ask you to answer that first?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the one thing you've got to remember as well is working, physical job outside burns off a lot of anxiety anyway. So it's actually part of a solution. So I know when I've had a difficult day and I'm feeling anxious, and I do suffer from time to time from anxiety. One of the things is I will go and take it out on the garden, when I get home, sort of thing, rather than anybody else. So it's there straight away. The job that you're doing is going to help with that. And you know what? We're an open industry to accepting and looking at individuals and the skills, whatever they may be, that they bring with them. You're definitely seeing, you have to do your role and your job, but each person is a unique individual that's coming in to be part of a team or to work within a company, and as long as what I would say is you never ever hide that from a company. You always make them aware, because if we don't know about it, we can't support it at the end of the day, and that's important. And we are, there are areas that we may not fully understand, but I know a lot of our companies are looking to make sure that we are looking after employees. At the end of the day, when somebody comes to work for a company, we want it to work out well. We want everyone to be happy. You know, it's very much changed. You know, and I know Matt's very much very forward thinking with his company in the culture that he creates with his employees in his company. That it's a family company, in you know, from that point of view, and they're looking to want to look after each other and support each other all the way through. And you know, mental health awareness is top of the list at the moment. You know, we've all come out of a really difficult situation, you know, with the pandemic, which has been tough. You know, we're all suffering. So we've all got to look after our mental health, and that is exactly the same. The horticulture and the landscaping industry is going to do exactly the same with that, to make sure that we're supporting the people that are coming into the industry.
Studies have found that working outside has a positive on our mental health, as Stephen has said. And you might think, you know, where do you go sometimes to de-stress? It could be just walking around the garden. It could be walking around the parks. And we are open. We're a diverse, welcoming industry that's happy to try and fit people's needs and abilities into different areas. So I guess it all kind of depends what the individual circumstances are. But we know, and also it's an industry that perhaps sometimes introverts are attracted to. Working with plants, people quite like working with plants sometimes, and they might just want to specialise with that. So you can think of going into a rose garden and pruning and training those roses, and that really quite nice environment. But nothing is always constant, and with that you will get changing seasons. So you might be working in some quite harsh environments as well: rain, snow, sleet, wind, changing of the seasons. So you'll certainly know when and where you are.
Yeah. Okay. And so the person who asked that question, if you've got any follow-up questions that you want to put, please do drop them in, and we'll try and answer those ones for you. But it's a really, really good question, and thanks for your answers with that one. Just very briefly before we look to wrap up, one thing I'm just keen for us to try and get out there is this a really good industry? Is this a growing industry, particularly within Hertfordshire? Do we think there's going to be lots of opportunities, particularly for people at school at the moment, to move into this industry in the years?
It is a growing industry. The Barley, which is the British Association of Landscape Industries, with a number of other organisations, has commissioned Oxford Economics to do quite a bit of research here. And we know the size of our industry currently is about 29 billion, and it's predicted to grow to about 42 billion by 2030. In terms of jobs, currently we're employing about 674,000 people, and again it's predicted that will grow to over 750,000 by 2030. And so the industry kind of lobbies governments to ensure that it's thinking about this industry, that it knows it's strategically important. And we know it's important because it creates a lot of tax revenue. And again, in terms of UK tax revenue, currently we're about 6.3 billion, and that's again predicted to go to about 8.7. And this was research, as I say, commissioned by the Oxford Economics. So it's not us talking about the industry. We commissioned research for these very reasons.
And it's not something that's going to go away. In fact, demand for this is only going to increase. The horticulture industry has been around for a long time, and what we're looking is it's starting to be respected and appreciated in terms of the work that it actually does. From that point of view, so it's not like it's going to be one of these industries that will just kind of disappear. All our Barley members are scrambling at the moment because their workload is phenomenal. Like landscapers are booked up well into next year, some of them spring, even down to the summer, and they're desperate to recruit more people to come into the industry and grow their team so they can meet the demand. From that point of view. So, it's an industry, a choice that you can make, which has got lots of options. And even if where you start, because I know it kind of comes down a little bit to the other point that's on the slide there, even where you start, you may not finish. The progression can take you left, right, diagonally, just as when I very briefly outlined what I did. I've always been in horticulture, but I've slid off in a couple of different paths to do that.
We also find a number of second career people come to our industry. So we do a lot with the military services as they're finishing their deployments and coming out into industry. But you'll get a whole host of people that maybe have worked in business that want a second career, and they might look at garden design, working in horticulture. I think that kind of tells you this is a nice space to be. We've been enlightened. We've been in it from the beginning. And we just think that for too long we've hidden our light under a bushel, really, and we're now trying to shine it out there and let people know what. If you think you're interested in it, it's vast, and we can probably find a space for you somewhere.
Yeah, sure. Okay, and then we've had another fantastic question that's just come in, almost on the flip side of that, really. So, if someone was looking into other career options during school and sixth form, would it still be a possibility to go into this career a bit later on in life, i.e., in your early to mid 20s? Do you find increasingly that's happening?
Yep, 100%. People often go along and often do degrees and completely change their mind. You know, they'll come up and do something else, or they've studied something and have changed their minds. One of the frightening stories I tended to find when I worked at a land-based college, I had a 98% success rate of getting people jobs at the end of their courses. There were other land-based courses that people would go through, and there were no careers or jobs at the end, but there was an easy swap across to come and join our industry if they'd done things like countryside or some of the more rural kind of qualifications, you know, from that point of view. So do you know what? If we don't get you when we leave school, we'll probably get you as a career changer later.
Yeah, no, okay. Next slide just to share with you. So you alluded to this earlier, Matt. This is the Go Landscape website. So we're now just going to try and direct you and signpost any of you that are still watching this at the moment, where you can go for some really good further information. So do you want to explain a little bit about who Go Landscape are?
Well, again, it's created by the industry as a way of shouting about and shining a spotlight on all the different careers and opportunities. There's a YouTube channel, I believe, created to it. But so on this web page, we can really showcase some different careers. So we've got people that have reached the very top. So we've got managing directors, we've got crafts people in there, gardeners. There's careers information on there as well. We can signpost you to different colleges. We perhaps haven't spoken about the Hertfordshire colleges and just outside of Hertfordshire there, but it's a really simple place to go to get some more information very quickly in one place. And I know this is really Stephen's world. This is what he does on a daily basis. So it's what you're doing, is networking here.
Absolutely. And just on the back of that, you know, there is an option on there where you can search for training providers. So you can pop your postcode in, it brings up all the training providers that are offering courses nearby to you, you know, from that point of view. So yeah, absolutely. Like Matt says, head over here. There's a wealth of information. And if there are any questions, if you go onto here and got the contact section on the website, it's to me directly. I pick up all the correspondence that comes through it. So if you've got any questions off the back of this, you know, please feel free to drop me a line. You know, and the same with if there's anything that you got for Matt, I'll happily pass it on to Matt if you've got some questions or queries for him as well. You know, so great.
Sure. Okay, thank you. And then just a couple of other websites to share with you, including Go Landscape. And I've ventured into the world of technology and managed to get QR codes on here as well. So there's your company's page, Matt. So John O'Connor. You can look at them. I mean, very good chance if you're in Hertfordshire, you will have seen some John O'Connor vehicles or some of Matt's team out and about as well. You do have pretty good spread across the county. Then we've got Steve's company there, the British Association of Landscape Industry. And then you've also got the Go Landscape page there. So if I just leave that slide up for a moment, if you do want to take a picture of any of those QR codes, they will take you directly to those company websites. Is there anything else that you'd recommend people go to or listen to or read that are just going to help them find out a little bit more about the industry, Steve?
Yeah, at the end of the day, you'll find you can access all kinds of different bits and pieces, case studies and stories and things like that on the Go Landscape website. So you can hear about what people say about the industry. And also, and there's videos as well for you to listen to stories. On the British Association of Landscape Industries, the interesting thing about that is you can tap on and see what's going on in terms of news. So we update regularly what's going on in the industry to keep it really up to date. Not all of it's going to be relevant. Some of it you'll go, cool, I don't know quite what all that means, but it just shows you a little bit about what's going up and happening in the industry from that point of view. So yeah, there's a wealth of information there from that point of view.
Okay, and then final slide for me to share with all of you here. So this is just a reminder about the HOP website. So we're really, really proud of our HOP website. So it stands for the Hertfordshire Opportunities Portal. It's a one-stop shop, so it's a whole wealth of information about careers information that we think any young people, students going to school in Hertfordshire would want to find out. This is one of 37 different webinars that we've recorded over the last 18 months or so. So do follow that QR code there and it will take you to our library of career webinars, same format as this one. You may well find there are other industries or other jobs that you want to find out a little bit more about, and you can watch back those videos as well. Do also have a look at the HOP as well as the website, some of our social media handles. I was going to close them, but I've had another question coming, so you've just got that in time. So let me ask this question as well. Does the plant gardening section of this career involve mainly maintaining grass, plants, flowers, etc., or does it also involve a wider variety such as fungi and mushrooms?
Go on, Matt, is that one of your specialties?
Everything. It could be as wide as you want it to be. Maintaining plants, absolutely. It's I guess the very specialists are harder. They're more niche, so more traditional. But there is everything out there for everybody. I think some of it might be a little bit harder to find.
Yeah, and I think even if you look at how the industry is changing and things are moving around with things like green walls, you know, we're still trying to understand exactly how those work and how we can improve those. You know, that these are things that are going up on a place where there isn't traditionally room for a traditional garden or green space. So we're looking at things that are going on the sides of buildings, on the tops of buildings, inside buildings, you know, and also just starting to understand exactly how that works. So it is, like Matt says, it's as broad as it is wide. And what I would suggest is get a grounding in it to understand it, which a lot of the qualifications do, and specialize later. If you come across something you find that you know kind of really goes, wow, that's really interesting, growing fungi, great. You know, I'm sure there will be companies that specialize in it. We're starting to see, aren't we, that they're going back to fungi to understand how those sorts of things can help with mental health and anxiety. So we're learning all the time from those sorts of things. So it's not just edible, it's medicinal sides of things that they're looking at as well.
Yeah, do your research. It's just it's the most important thing. Don't try and put too much pressure on yourselves at this stage, but think about what excites you and do some research in that area.
Okay, right, well look, I think we've reached a conclusion now. So firstly, let me thank all of you in the audience, particularly those that are watching this live and have submitted your questions as well, which have really added value to this webinar today. But let me mostly thank Matt and to Steve for giving up their time, not only for this hour, but also in preparation for the session as well. So hopefully they've really informed you about your next steps, and hopefully they've inspired you that the landscaping and horticulture industry is a fantastic one for you to go into. There's great prospects there for you as well, and actually you're going to get a great deal of satisfaction from following it. So thanks, Matt, and thanks, Steve.
Pleasure, thank you.
Thank you, pleasure.
And we wish everyone the very, very best with the next stages of their career progression. So thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you.